Hey everybody, Joe Borey from Syncoplay Retro Gaming. And today I want to recommend to you 3 Famicom games that you should play after you finish Contra. So the first game I recommend you play after you finish Contra is Motomo Abenai Deca. So this roughly translates to very dangerous detective or extremely dangerous detective. And Abenai Deca was a Japanese cop TV show in the mid-80s. Motomo Abenai Deca is the film based on that TV show. And this is the game based on that film. Now, Motomo Abenai Deca is a pretty straightforward Rolling Thunder style side-scrolling shooter. Enemies come in from both sides of the screen, you're fending them off from both sides, various weapons at your disposal, run through, try to get to the end of the level before you die, repeat in the next level with harder and new types of enemies. Now that said, this game is incredibly addictive. It is a lot of fun to figure out, how am I going to make it through this never-ending horde of enemies, only to then get one-upped by something even bigger. The occasional boss fight is fairly simplistic and can be taken down by a grenade or two, but the game never stops moving forward. It has a ton of momentum, and that makes it really great. In addition to that, it is one of the rare Nintendo games that has 2-player simultaneous co-op, much like Contra, where we can both run through the game together, fending off, we've got each other's backs, trying to make it through the level together. And that really elevates it from just a run-forward shooter like you see from a lot of different games to something that you can get a friend over and play. Now that said, let's hope that friend is a little bit forgiving of some retro jank, because this game is made by Micronics, and if you know what that means, it means janky controls, some technical issues, a heck of a lot of flicker. So there are some things that you really have to forgive in order to really get into this game. One of the big things is the set jump arc, which you also see in Micronics' port of Ghosts and Goblins on the NES. But once you have left the ground, you're jumping that arc. There is no air steer. There is no way you're going to stop yourself from making that entire jump. But in this game, your jump is really high and really floaty. So that lack of air steer means that you can be multiple seconds off the ground before you land again. So if you make a bad jump, you're going to land in a bad place. That said, once you get past all of that, this is a very fun and 2-player simultaneous shooter. So, recommended. Once you finish Contra, give this a try. Second game we're going to take a look at here, Tokoro-san no Mamorumo Semerumo. Basically translates to Mr. Tokoro Defend and Attack. So, this is another side-scrolling platform shooter based on, branded by anyway, the Japanese comedian George Tokoro. So this was actually a popular thing in Japan for a little while, taking comedians and other kind of mid-level celebrities and giving them their own Famicom game. The game that we got in the US called Kid Cool actually ended up being a port of a Japanese game based on another comedian. But this one is kind of an interesting little side-scrolling shooter. It does have its fatal flaw, and we'll get to that. But first, let's talk a little bit about the strange world that Mr. Tokoro lives in. We've got flying whales who fly by and drop bombs on you. We've got cats who are like stray cats running around the neighborhood, and when you shoot them, they start running away and knock everything off the path wherever they're running. We've got severed feet for reasons. So a very strange world, and at the end of each level, there is a boss that is just a giant scuba diver straight out of like the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. I have no idea what's going on in this world, but Mr. Tokoro has to fight his way through Tokyo with nothing but a squirt gun. And that is also kind of this game's fatal flaw. The squirt gun has super limited ammunition, and the lower your ammo gets, the shorter the distance of the squirt, to the point in which once it gets low enough, your squirt is basically a melee weapon, not even really a distance weapon. And that water doesn't refill between levels. It only refills when you find invisible, hidden water canisters, which you have to shoot to make them appear. So what ends up happening is that this is a game with a lot of really interesting potential as a simplistic shooter that kind of totally falls apart because the water canisters are so hard to get. But if you either have the patience to track them down or, hint, use an online guide to find some of those water canisters and help you through the experience, the rest of it is a pretty fun little game. At the end of each level, you fight the scuba guy, and then you've got doors, and you choose the door that you want to go through, and it takes you to a different level each time. So you get an almost Darius-style branching exploration system that gives the game a little bit of non-linearity. I enjoyed it. I just wish they gave you more water in your gun. Alright, so the last game we're going to take a look at is Lupin III, Pandora no Isan. So this is based on the manga / anime movie long-running series from the 1960s, Lupin III, which is itself based on the Lupin novels series, with just a little bit of James Bond mixed in for good measure. So Lupin III on the Famicom is, I would say, the best of the 3 games that I have recommended here today. And it comes incredibly cheap. It's only a couple of dollars a cartridge, which is fantastic value for what you actually get here. You play as one of 3 characters. Between lives, you can switch characters. You can also use a little walkie-talkie to switch characters in-game. But you can either be Lupin, who has a gun, but he can't shoot when he's jumping, and he has all sorts of items at his disposal, body armor and stuff, to take extra hits, bombs to blow stuff up. Or you can play as Daisuke, who can't use the items, has a gun, but he can shoot when jumping, which is incredibly valuable. And then you can play as Goemon, who is a samurai with a sword. It's the most powerful weapon, but of course it's only at sword length. And so with these 3 characters, you are going through all sorts of types of levels. It starts out bounding across the rooftops with kind of a cool momentum-based jumping mechanic where you have to slide down the roof and leap to the next building or you'll fall to your doom. Luckily, you can find balloons, which will help you float back up if you do fall off the roof. Once you get across the rooftops and into the mansion in which you are trying to break into, it turns into a bit more of a side-scrolling, almost Rolling Thunder again style shooter. And in that level, there are doors that you can go in and actually find any of your characters that died in the first mission. They've actually been tied up in the room, and you can save them and use them again in your mission. So it becomes sort of like a resurrection mechanic. Now then, you make it down to the bottom of the mansion, you fight a big boss enemy, and I don't know what happens from there because, wow, this game is hard. This game is incredibly difficult, and the bosses are particularly punishing. Now, why am I recommending this? The reason I'm recommending this is because I will absolutely be going back and playing a whole heck of a lot more of this game. It was a lot of fun, but I will be doing it with save states. And I'll only use the save states when I really need to, but I need to use one before that boss. Because if you die against the boss, you are starting that whole run over again. I did that run over and over and loved it every time, but I want to see more of it. It is, this is Contra hard, possibly harder, but it's a very, very fun little side-scrolling shooter. So if you actually watch during the attract mode, you'll see some of the clips that I'm running right now, which shows all sorts of other areas from Japan to from a Japanese village to a vehicle segment, just all sorts of other stuff. And I want to see that stuff. I want to do that stuff. So definitely going to be checking this one out again with save states. So that's 3 Famicom games that I recommend after you've finished Contra and you're just looking for more of that fun shooter action. Each one has its own strengths and weaknesses, as most 8-bit games did, but they're all really fun in their own way. So I just ask you guys, do you like this kind of video? Do you want to see more content like this, more recommendations like this? Please let me know down in the comments what you're interested in seeing. I'm a brand new channel trying to grow and would love to get your thoughts. So I thank you for your time and you have a nice day.